Thank you for your interest in the AbleBridge EditAble CRM Grid add-on for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. This video is designed to walk you through the basics of our editable CRM Grid solution. AbleBridge EditAble CRM Grid is available for either CRM Online or on-premises deployments and works with both system and custom entities. Editable CRM Grid delivers a richer user experience by representing information more efficiently on CRM forms and supports inline grid editing, flexible layout options, Microsoft Excel export, section grouping, sorting, and much more. Let's take a look at some examples of what Editable CRM Grid can do. A data grid can be placed on any CRM form. Here's an example of a data grid built off a custom entity called Buildings and displayed on the account form. It shows information about the units in two different buildings, including square footage, monthly rent, and lease expiration. Simply double-click any of the records to activate the Edit feature. You can edit multiple records at once. After you're done, commit your changes by clicking Save. You can also use the data grid to delete records or create new ones without having to leave this form. This grid is set up to group the data and show subtotals based on the grouping category. Boston Properties has two buildings. As you can see, Building 1 has 4 units and Building 2 has 3 units. In addition to grouping, the grid also uses inline calculations. Square footage is multiplied by price per square foot to determine the yearly lease. We simply divide this number by 12 to get the monthly amount. I'd like to know the monthly income being generated based on the current occupancy level, but that information isn't readily available in this view. Data Grid allows for dynamic grouping, so you can see the information in a way that's more relevant to what you're looking for. I'll regroup the data by occupancy instead of building to find the information I need. Now we can see that the current monthly income is $15,454.17, and an additional $6,166.66 could be gained by leasing Unit D in Building 1 and Unit B in Building 2. Grouping records can provide visibility into metrics you'd otherwise have to calculate on your own. The Data Grid toolbar can be configured to include an Export to Excel button. This provides the user with the option to export as formatted data, as presented in the Data Grid, or as unformatted data. Formatted data is great if you need to print this information or send it in an email. Raw, unformatted data allows you to further process the information or create pivot tables. Let's take a look at a more advanced data grid. This grid highlights the capability of associating multiple grids to one another. Boston Properties owns 5 different investment properties in the Boston area. The figures in this grid are a summary of the data related to the offices within each property. To see information about the offices at a particular location, just select that property and a related grid will populate below. Let's take a look at 4 Miles Lane. Here are the 6 offices at that property. Any changes made here will be reflected in the summary data grid above. For example, I'll change the square footage for Unit 1 to 1200 and save it. When I refresh the summary grid, you'll notice the square footage and the monthly rent will automatically increase based on the change. Multiple data grids can be placed in the same form. This grid is configured against the standard case entity. Once again, we see the data grid's grouping capabilities. With a quick glance, you can see how many cases are categorized as active, canceled, and resolved. To find out more information about a record, just click on the title to launch the case form. Next, let's take a look at Boston Bank. Boston Bank has a grid that's configured against a custom entity called Metals and utilizes the inline calculation feature. Because metal prices can vary from day to day, the company needs a quick way to check prices. Therefore, we've configured a toolbar to launch an external site to see the latest information on the metals market. Data grids aren't just limited to forms. A grid can also be launched from the navigation pane or placed on a dashboard. This data grid is configured to show all open opportunities. The data is grouped by record owner and sorted based on sales stage. This view makes it very simple to see how many opportunities each salesperson is working on and their total estimated revenue. Like data grids on forms, this one can also be used to edit multiple records at once, which can be especially helpful for a salesperson or sales manager to make quick information updates to the sales pipeline. Multi-currency support is inherited from the currencies and exchange rates set up in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. In addition to US dollars, this grid has been set up for euros and pesos, but any currencies supported in CRM can be used. Data grids are created and configured through a familiar CRM record interface. A helpful configuration wizard guides you through the basic setup of a data grid. Once you've created your grid, you can always come back here and make edits. From this simple form, you can edit row functionality, display options, as well as grouping and sorting preferences. At the top of the page, you'll find a data grid with all of your columns. You can use this grid to make edits to the display name, width, and alignment of the columns, as well as whether they are visible, read-only, or have a summary in the footer. You also have the ability to delete or add new columns. You can even change the column order by simply dragging them into the order you want them. For data grid customers, additional videos are available showing more in-depth how-to instructions on creating and configuring data grids. Thanks again for your interest in AbleBridge Data Grid Control for Microsoft Dynamics CRM. For additional information about this or any other AbleBridge product or service, please visit our website ablebridge.com or send us an email to info@ablebridge.